everybody, a warm welcome to Wisdom from North, the place where we're diving into the deeper meaning of life and asking the big questions. My name is Janneke, and today I'm here with Neereda McInnes, who is the author of this beautiful book, The Truth of Your Reality, Insights on the Game of Life and How You Choose to Play It. And Nereeda is also a business and a marketing mentor and a certified life coach. Hello, Nereeda. From Australia,
Hello.
down under. How are you doing?
I'm really well. Thank you for having me.
Sure. I've never actually interviewed anybody from Australia, so I think this is fascinating. Morning for me, afternoon for you. Across the world, it's brilliant, this technology that we have. And you speak about reality, that we see and perceive our realities completely different. And I got to say that I really resonated with your reality because it's kind of like the way I see reality too. And I want to go into that, how we can actually change it if we are not kind of liking the reality we're in, if we're not happy with our lives, how we can change that and how you change that. And you've been working a lot on yourself, like you're writing in this book that you love personal development.
Yes, massive fan, massive fan. Even though it does get a bit nitty gritty sometimes and it can be a bit hard, I absolutely love it. I think it's so important.
Yeah.
But
And why is it important?
I think we all come here to have an opportunity to grow and learn. And if we don't work on ourselves, how can we do that? So I feel like it's a part of it, as well as having fun at the same time. But it's learning lessons, whatever your soul path is. So I feel like it's so incredibly important to be able to work on yourself. But to be able to do that, you need to be aware, which I think is probably the answer to the first question you said as well.
Right. And you're also saying that when we work on ourselves, that actually has an effect on the larger scale as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you agree. I believe we're all connected. So we've got two options. We've always got a choice. We can perceive our reality however we want to perceive it, and it's always going to be how we see it, and how someone else views it is their reality. So being that we're all connected, if we're living in alignment with who we truly are and we're loving beings on this human experience, we then add that to the collective. So I feel like if we are true to ourselves and be who we are, it brings on a ripple effect, and it adds to the betterment of humankind rather than focusing on the negative, so to speak.
Right. And it was so sweet in a way because it seemed like this book was born by your friend coming to you talking about her parents, and all of a sudden she was complaining a bit about her parents, or I don't remember the complete situation, but you said that, well, they are living in their reality, and that was like an aha moment for you. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was. We were having a conversation at work, and we were just chatting, and we always chatted about life and just what it means for each other and how other people see things. And she was upset because her parents watch a lot of the news and they get quite down about it sometimes. But yeah, that's when I sort of said, well, that's the reality that they choose to live in, and it works for them. It may not be what we choose, but it works for them. And yeah, I can't remember the exact sentence, so lucky I wrote it down in the book, but it really was an aha moment for me. It really, even looking back at it now, I'm just so grateful for that moment. I shared in the epiphany, so it was great. Yeah.
But let's go deeper into that. What does it mean that we're actually living in a reality that works for us? Because in many ways, many would disagree. We live in the same reality.
Yeah, true. I believe we live in a reality that works or doesn't work for us. So wherever we are, we're always there. So whatever is in our reality is part of our reality. So it's either working for us or it isn't. In simple terms, if we have a lot of negative stuff happening to us and we're a negative person, it can sometimes be simply the law of attraction. It could be that, or it could be part of our life lessons and the lessons that we need to learn. But my reality is my perception. Your reality is your perception, and it's always the reality that we see. We can't see it any other way. We can be compassionate and understand someone else's position, but we're still looking at it from our standpoint, if that makes sense. I like to try and keep things as simple as possible because I think sometimes we can overcomplicate it as well. So I hope I've explained that simply.
So how is that reality born then? I assume a lot of people are saying that it's coming from our childhood, actually, the way we're brought up and our belief system. Can you talk a little bit about how you view that, how we actually have created our perception from the start,
Yeah.
in a way?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say this is my reality. So I'm definitely not the guru, and I say that in the start of the book as well. So the way I see reality, at the time of writing the book, I may change my view as I go, but we all have a right to change how we see things. But I do believe when we come through into this a crazy, amazing world that we are influenced by the people around us the most, and we learn what works and what doesn't, how we should be, when we should be quiet, when we should stand up and speak. And we all have different experiences in that way. And that shapes our reality. And I feel like it isn't until later that when we start to question what may or may not be true for us, that we might discover that our reality is actually flipped on its head, and it's only a set of beliefs that we've been believing because we've put meaning to it for so many years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you said also in the book that you didn't know that you had a choice what to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't. You're brought up in a certain way, and we're all brought up in different cultures, environments, and sometimes, you're just told what to believe, and that's that. It's your mum and dad might say that's how it is, or you're brought up by your auntie or your grandpa, and that's just the way life is. And it isn't till later that you go, hang on a minute, maybe that isn't true for me. Maybe there's something else there. And, you can see patterns in your own life that maybe you want to change. And in order to do that, you need to become aware of it and then dive deeper. And that's where the personal development comes in as well.
So did you have a shift like that in your life where you discovered that, hey, I don't believe in this. Something else is true for me. Did you have some sort of a shift in the belief system?
I think it was a gradual thing. I can think back over the years and I can sort of see where I started to get really excited about the personal development journey, and I could see that there were people around me who probably wouldn't dive into that sort of stuff like I would, but for me it was something that I wanted to explore, and it was a gradual process, which for me is exciting because I think, that was 10, 15 years ago now. So imagine what the next 10 years is going to be like. What will I discover? Who will I meet? What layers can I take off of my coat, so to speak, and to be more of who I really am.
So in your perception, what is it to be more of who you really are? Because in one sense, we are always ourselves. I mean, this is a big question, You're always yourself, but maybe a version of yourself, and now you're maybe another version of yourself. That's the way to see it. Or somebody is talking about becoming more whole in a way. But it's like this paradox, because I feel like we're always ourselves anyway. So in your perception, what does it mean to be truly yourself or be authentic?
Yeah, sure. It's a question that I ask all the time to myself. I honestly feel like to be who you really are is to be connected to your soul purpose, your soul mission, and to be in alignment with what feels right. It doesn't mean that when you go off track, you're not who you are. It's just removing the layers, that the old belief systems, they're not really you. They're just a belief system. So with that not being there, more of who you are is being in alignment with your true self, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So how did you work on belief system? Because I think that's the most difficult things of all. Like, I'm noticing it in my own life that I'm at that stage where I've become very aware of my belief system about, patterns in my life, things that have been happening. I've been very aware of my thoughts, that, now that thought comes again. But what I'm realizing is that it's really hard to change what I believe. Because, and we spoke about this initially before the Skype call, that I have some certain things that keep happening in my life. And I really want to change it, but I actually believe that it will come back and come back. And that's why it comes back and it comes back. But because that's my experience, that, I see blue pens all the time. So I will continue seeing blue pens. Like, how do we change that? Like, I want to see green pens. Like, that was a very stupid example.
Great analogy. Hey, you had a blue pen there. Let's go with it. Cool.
Yeah, how have you worked with like changing belief systems that are not really serving you, or things you believe in that creates patterns?
Yeah, I think awareness of what the pattern is definitely a huge step. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. So as soon as you realize that oh shit, there's this pattern coming up, you can go, okay, what can I do to work on this? And for me, I've done lots of different things. Like in the book, I talk about emotional freedom technique, which is a tapping technique. That's one way to clear things out. There's also,
and you were very skeptical towards that. I just want to mention that.
I was years ago. I had a friend who was she was going to be giving birth, and she said, I've read this book and I'm going to do some tapping. And I sort of went, hang on a minute, how is that going to take away the pain of pushing out a baby? But in hindsight, I really see that it would have helped bring down the anxiety of the moment, and it probably would have really helped her. And it's something that may help some people and may not be as effective for other people. It was actually invented to deal with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So when people came back from war and things like that. And I've watched quite a few documentaries where you've seen people who've seen some of the most horrific stuff, and they've done a process, and you can watch their anxiety levels come down. And in the one of the particular documentaries that I was watching, there was probably 10 people there, and of the 10, it didn't work for one or maybe two. So 8 out of 10 it did work for. So, wow. But to me, I think there's so many tools you can be using when it comes to your life. So if one doesn't work, try something else, because there's no rules, and it's all about exploring anyway. And you might try something that will help, may not help you, but you'll pass it on to someone else and it may help them. So yeah, it's just a fun exploring journey. I get excited by it, so as you can probably tell.
So what other things did you do that made you change belief and patterns?
Yeah, I think another exercise that I did was a secret letter burn, and other people may call it something else. And it's when you write a letter to either yourself or to someone else, and you write as much as you want to write, and you can write pages and pages, or maybe you just want to say a few things, and you can then reread that back to yourself. You may be crying, who knows, but then you burn that letter. And
what are you writing about?
It could be anything. So perhaps perhaps you're feeling frustrated, or maybe you're sad or angry and you don't know why. You might say, dear, like maybe there's someone in your life who's really affected you in a non-positive way, perhaps, positive, negative, and you start writing a letter to them, because you don't always need to tell those people how they made you feel, but you still need to get it out of your system, so to speak. So you might start writing, you might find that stuff comes out that you didn't even know was there. And then once you've gone through the process, then you burn the letter straight away. So no one will ever know what you've said. You just know you've said it. It's like another way to release.
But is that because behind these patterns or belief systems, there might be a wound, you're saying, and that's the wound that you are addressing through the letter? Yeah,
definitely. Right. And that's part of the healing process. Yeah.
Right. And that's such an interesting thing, the healing that we can. It seems like to me that when I reached 30, after that, a lot of stuff started coming up. And it seems like somebody said to me that, the 30s is like this age or the years where stuff comes up from your childhood, and it's you're ready to look at it then. And then it seems like there is an opportunity to actually do that work, but you can also not do the work and just continue, with your life. But it's really hard. I think it's really challenging, this personal development stuff, because I've just started going to this course, and things are coming up all the time, and it's really heavy. Like, it's not... I don't feel like I'm in balance like every day, and it's really up and down, and sometimes I just feel angry for no reason, and it's tough. My point is, it's really tough to go this path, and sometimes you're wondering, am I clearing stuff, or am I just adding stuff, or because you don't see some end result, and nobody's standing there saying, yeah, you just quit, no, you just let go of that layer now, great, now the onion is getting peeled. Like, you don't know if it's on the right path.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But do you trust it?
Yeah, you trust it, and you wouldn't be faced, I don't believe you would be faced with these opportunities to grow if you weren't ready for it. And then it is your choice whether you keep going, and sometimes it is bloody painful, isn't it? It's gut-wrenching, and that's where you get to decide, do you keep climbing up the mountain, and while you're in it, it's so easy, while you're not in it, it's easy to say, oh, just keep going, but when you're in it, it's like, holy crap, is this really serving me? And I really feel like it's with the benefit of hindsight, we can look back and go, okay, yeah, I get it now, but unfortunately, we can't connect those dots moving forward. We can only connect them looking back, like Steve Jobs once said. So,
yeah. And I actually discovered yesterday, and it was such a great moment, because there was one thing that used to trigger me a lot. Like, a family member said a certain thing, and I would just be like, rah! And I was very aware of it. And then it came up yesterday, and I didn't react at all. Like, there was no reaction. I was like just responding. And then afterwards I was like, what happened there? And then I realized, wow, all the work I've done has really paid off. But I didn't know that before actually the moment arrived again, like the situation. So I was able to see it. So I guess things are happening. We just don't always know before we're put into the same situation again.
Yes. So if there was that layer fairy there, he would have said, you've just released a layer. But
yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? Yes.
I know. Wow. So you have met some difficulties in your life. I mean, even though you really have started this path, and have peeled, after what I understand, many layers on the onion. You got MS, do you call it that? MS?
Yes.
Yeah.
Multiple sclerosis.
Yeah. So that must have been a shock. How did you react to that? How did you handle that?
Yeah, so that was 2013. I got the diagnosis, and obviously it sort of came out of nowhere, and which would be the same for most people in that sort of thing, And if I not done so much work on myself, I really honestly feel like I would have reacted such a different way. But even though I would have been a bit in shock, I made a conscious choice straight away to say, okay, I can either be a survivor of this, or I can choose to be positive about it. And that's not positive in denial about it, but positive in the sense that, okay, well, I believe that, we're made up of energy, and my thought patterns create things, then I will take the path that works. It doesn't mean I always get it right. And sure, I would have had some tough days in the beginning. I think it was the finding out part that was the hardest. It was the gap between being told you might have this thing to being told whether or not you had this thing. That was the hardest time. That was a space of about 2 or 3 weeks, because you don't know. And then at least when you get the diagnosis, whether it's positive or negative, you can go, okay, right, this is what I'm going to do from here. So, so that was the choice I made. And I feel like it's been a massive blessing in the sense of the lessons that I've learned from it. And it doesn't necessarily mean, I would have seeked it out, but it has helped me to gain even more understanding and perhaps a deeper understanding myself and the world. And yeah, it's helped me in that sense. So I don't feel like poor me. I just think, yeah, I mean, it's been a while now too, so it's been a few years, and now I just get on with life, and I have since finding out anyway. I just a lot more aware. I think it's those kind of things. They can wake you up even more when you thought you were already awake, if that makes sense. So yeah,
Yes.
it got me onto more of my path and got me more in alignment with who I truly am, if that makes sense as well.
Completely. There are many people who will say the same, that they meet even more challenges and then the path goes deeper within themselves and that they're grateful afterwards. But in the midst of it, it's always difficult to see. And I think I believe that's my reality, that the soul is actually yearning for our growth. And maybe sometimes we have taken on much more than we realize in our personalities or in our 3D world in a way. But does it limit you in your everyday life, or how do you actually manage to create? I mean, you're creating a lot, it seems like, vlogs and working, and so how do you work your how do you make your everyday life work dealing with this?
Well, to be honest, since being diagnosed, the 3 symptoms that I had aren't there. So when I started off and I had a numb calf. I'm grabbing my calf right now, by the way. So I had a numb calf, and that's turned out, after a while, it turned into a whole numb leg just at the back. And that's what sort of spurred me on to go to the GP and to the doctors, that is, and see what, is there something happening. And I had that, and finding out, during the finding out process, I got double vision while driving. And that was scary. That was really scary, because all of a sudden I was driving and I looked one way and I could see, instead of 2 rows of cars, like 5 or 6 rows of cars. And I'm like, holy crap, this isn't right. But, I learned as well that when you're under stress, that you can also get double vision. So it may or may not have been a symptom of MS. It could have simply been a symptom of stress, which is something that is related to MS anyway. And then had a tingly finger for a little while. So aside from that, since being diagnosed so going to the doctor in June 1st, 2013, around then, finding out in September, I haven't had any symptoms since then.
Oh, that's
Not
interesting.
one. Yeah. So I do take medication, which is just a tablet in the morning and the night. And aside from that, I haven't had a single symptom. And every day I write in my journal, I am perfect health. And I remind myself of that. And it seems like I'm probably a bit healthier than I've ever been. So that's the thing.
Let's jump a little bit. You are very personal also in this book. You talk about that you had weight issues, and that you... and another thing, I don't remember if it was related. I think it was that you were always wearing long trousers, jeans, or you never wore shorts for some reason. But that changed. And that's interesting how, like, a big problem that we think is a big problem all of a sudden change. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So obviously that was a belief that I had from a very young age, and I believed it to my core. I learnt it very young, and a lot of women do believe that about themselves, which is, we know now, is ridiculously silly. And I have been lots of different sizes along the way, but I just could never feel comfortable in shorts. And I remember after being diagnosed, I was like, why am I being this ridiculous? I remember looking in the mirror and just being so appreciative of my body and just going, you're the thing that gets me around this awesome planet. I love this place, and I'm sorry that I've, seen you that way. And look, to be honest, I'm human. I'll still have a day where I go, I'm not feeling my best, but all in all, that just changed in an instant. And I remember going to my hairdressers, and I think I write it in the book, she was talking about what her year was going to be about. She was picking a word, a positive word, and I can't remember what the word was. And she's like, so what's yours? And I said, mine's the year of shorts. And we just lost it because it was so ridiculous. But it was so funny as well. So, but, it's just amazing how a belief system can change in, a real short amount of time, even a split second sometimes. And, we're here, living this life.
And sometimes I think we have to choose it on a level as well. Like, I'm just thinking about the things that I haven't been satisfied with my body. I think at some point in my life, I made the decision that I was going to be grateful for my body and even those parts that I wasn't truly happy about, because I jog a lot, and I'm so grateful that I can jog, because that is such an important thing in my life, that I can move my body and have this feeling of grounding myself. And I'm thinking then, if I didn't have that opportunity, if there was something wrong with some of my body parts, I couldn't have run. So I've just become so grateful, and that has actually taken away a lot of the focus on, I don't like this part or this part. And then I just decided that, okay, hey, I'm just gonna focus on the gratefulness. And in that process, I just all of a sudden perceived my body in another way. Like, it became beautiful in the parts I didn't like. All of a sudden I saw them with different eyes. And so I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Maybe it's a process. But I think we can't choose to love something with ourselves that we're having problems with liking, with, for instance, gratefulness as a tool, perhaps.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Gratefulness. Amazing tool. It's sometimes we have a crappy time and it's hard to be grateful, but your story is just beautiful because you see yourself as the beautiful person that you are, that everyone else would see. No one would ever see the flaws that you see. And that's how we all should be seeing each other. And we're always the hardest on ourselves as well. We really are. And people love us for our soul and who we are, not because what we look like. And if that is the case, then we would be attracting different people into our lives anyway. So
that's true. So do you work mostly with women, or is it both men and women? Because you are a life coach and a mentor.
Yeah, I work with men and women, and a lot of stuff online. But I do like the mix of both. So and it's a mix of business and life as well. Which I really enjoy, because I do love the business stuff, but as you know, I love the personal development stuff. But you can't have business without personal development. That is for sure.
I know many have been saying that. Yes, I totally agree that to do a business, you need to work on yourself as well. It's really linked. But in the end of the book, you really talk about, how powerful we are and how beautiful we are. Is that something you come across, that many are, the people you work with are not believing in themselves, are holding themselves back?
I just think we all hold ourselves back sometimes, and we get frustrated. And if we're not aware that we're doing it, it might take someone to say something and it points something out, and you have an aha moment. And it might be in a session, a one-on-one session with someone, or it might just be a friend saying something, or something you hear on the TV. It's just when you're ready to hear it. I really believe that. And you might have heard it like 20 times before, and then eventually just this one moment it sinks in for some reason, and that can change the course of your life. I just want to say thank you so much for having me on your amazing show. You have had so many amazing people on here, and you are just beautiful. So I just thank you, and I'm just honored to be here. So thanks.
Well, thank you for coming onto my show. I really loved your book. It's beautiful, and there are so many beautiful quotes here as well. So I can really recommend getting this, The Truth of Your Reality. Thank you so much, Nereeda, and all the best to your wonderful work.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for watching. Much light from Norway and Australia. Bye-bye.